welcome to the InNOLEvation Mindset podcast powered by the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship. I'm your host today. My name is Totu Seitieva, and today I have Kimasia in the studio with us. Hi, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good as well. So Kimasia is an entrepreneur, so we will be talking about your entrepreneurial journey today. So can you tell me a little bit about the companies that you have?
Gotcha. So I have two companies. I have Soulfully Organic and I have the Ultimate Muse. Both of them are licensed, and so I'll dive into a little bit about that. I'm a Hoodoo practitioner. Hoodoo is the first religion of the enslaved Africans who came over during chattel slavery, and it's a very dynamic and versatile and multifaceted religion. And I noticed that when it came to religions growing up for me personally, a lot of times it was like, hey, just Christianity. And if you're not a Christian, you're automatically a Satanist. And my journey personally, this is all relevant. My journey it was honestly all over the place. Just being very transparent, it was all over the place. And at a certain point, I stumbled upon Hoodoo. And as I read more about it, as I learned more about myself, as I just went on the journey and understood the foundations of animism or the foundations of root work and just overall essence of culture and the captivating nature of ancestral healing and really tapping into your divine power, I decided to utilize my gifts, my talents, and abilities to facilitate a space for that within my own community. And so thus Soulfully Organic was born. But initially, it wasn't called Soulfully Organic. I went through a plethora of names, a plethora of branding. I've honestly had the entrepreneurial, hustler mindset from a very young age. In high school, I had a business called Treat Me Sweetly, where I just did candied popcorn just to get a little extra cash on the side. And then I ended up having surgery in 2017 for a hip deformity that I have. And I almost died. It was really crazy. I got 3 more surgeries after that. But during that time, I was bound to my mom's couch. I was couch ridden for 6 months, had pulmonary embolisms, almost died a bunch of times. And at that point, all I was doing was looking on social media, and all I was seeing was makeup stuff. This is also 2017. So, thick eyebrows on fleek. If you were there. And
For sure.
I remember just being on social media, and I'm wow, I don't see a lot of skincare things. I don't see a lot of things geared towards natural beauty. I don't see a lot of things towards embracing things like acne or embracing things like eczema and just different skin conditions. And so at first, Soulfully Organic actually started off as a skincare line. And I called it Innocently Beautiful. And my logo was literally a gold halo with a lip mark, like a kiss. And fun fact, my middle name is Innocence. And so I put those two together. I liked it, but then I noticed that I just slowly kept venturing off into the realm of spirituality. And it got to the point where I wanted to do things like scrubs, organic, this aloe vera, body butter, this. But then I wanted to incorporate spiritual intentions behind them. And then I slowly started seeing it shift. It started shifting to the point where I was just straight up just doing spiritual work. And around that time, I started reading tarot for myself. My aunt, she gave me a tarot reading, and I was just oh, wow, this is fire. And then I purchased my first thing of cards, and I remember I wouldn't even shuffle them the way I shuffle them now. I would lay out the cards like a solitaire, and then someone would tell me what's going on, and I would just look at a card and be this one's calling me. And then I would just flip random cards in the deck, and I'd be this isn't right, and I would turn them upside down, and then I would just start crying. And I'd be yeah, you had a mental breakdown at 7:02 this morning. You were sitting in the shower, right? They'd be how do you know this? I'm I feel I did that earlier this morning. The water started getting lukewarm around this time, and I would full on describe what's going on in their life. And that was the moment where I really solidified, okay, I have gifts. My mom at a young age, she told me that she knew that I was psychic from a very young age, because I was 6 months old, and I predicted us getting into a car accident and my godmom losing her eye. And yeah. And
wow.
After that, I would just see a bunch of stuff. I'm in the cemetery, with my aunt or something. Oh, that family died in a car accident. They were driving a mom's van, and it was maroon, and even the baby died. And I could see everything that was going on. And so when I started doing my readings, at first I would just do them for just a review. All throughout high school, starting late junior, early senior years, when I started being super public with it. But that's when I would just do reviews for just do reviews. I would just do readings for just straight up just reviews, because my goal was when I came to college, I would be able to build something to where I could sustain myself, to where I could be able to give knowledge or give guidance and so forth. And honestly, it just blossomed into what Soulfully Organic is now. I'm relaunching like our podcast called Soul Family Sessions, where practically every Sunday I just go up on the mic and I just talk and I just channel, and I'll just sit there and I'll do a community bone reading. I'll like host like different classes. I have different webinars, and like that entire branch of Soulfully Organic is me just like putting myself, like the spiritual aspect of myself, like the very religious side, and providing that for the community, to where I'm still straight with Uncle Sam because he's going to get his money regardless. But I feel like that's a nice way for me to be able to do things in the future, host things like fellowships, host things like scholarships, create classes, create a whole enterprise where I essentially build a community around this religion. And not solely just this religion, but like anything like African diasporic. Me personally, as a Hoodoo practitioner, I can only speak for Hoodoo, even though I have family in my I have people in my family who like are initiated in like different religions, from Hoodoo to like a bunch of other stuff that I'm not really going to talk about. But yeah, and so like essentially like Hoodoo is Hoodoo. Soulfully Organic is a Hoodoo-based botanica that's online-based, and I focus on merging spirituality and practicality within each other, and like providing resources, not for me to be like, hey, do this religion, but for me to provide the tools so that people can find their own guidance. My goal is for people to not get so caught up within the tools, but to use the tools as tools to find themselves and to like further empower themselves.
I really like that. I really like the last part where you said that you want the people to use the tools to find themselves. You don't want to necessarily just push out a bunch of tools and be like, this will fix you, but you want them to have those tools so that they can look within themselves and dig deeper and find out whatever it is they're searching for. Also, that was really interesting. I really enjoyed learning about that. And I've read a little bit about Hoodoo, but I liked learning about it from your perspective as someone that actually practices it and has been, and your experiences. That's really cool that you were able to have those visions and see the things that most people can't, and like get people's pasts or futures so accurate. Like that's really cool. And I like that you're connecting that in your company, because I feel like as an entrepreneur, it's important to do something that you're like, that is yourself, like you're deeply passionate about. So the fact that you are connecting like what you are passionate about and like your own like practices, your own religion into your products and the tools that you're giving out, that's, I feel like something that all entrepreneurs should take a look at and be like, this is something that you should be doing.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that like when I personally was like growing up, that there wasn't a lot of Hoodoo representation. I feel like there's a lot of misconstruction around Hoodoo. Like people see it as, oh, it's just a realm of spirituality, or oh, anybody can do it. But me personally, like also as a Hoodoo like philosopher, because I'm also like a philosopher, I'm also a historian, I'm also a sociologist. Like I have so many hats. But for Soulfully Organic, that's where I really embark on my business boundaries, and a lot, anything spiritual, you go to Soulfully Organic. At first, when I first started, I actually went viral on TikTok, and I had to go on a 2-year hiatus because it was just too much for me. So I have something called the Soulfully Organic Signature Smoke Blends, where essentially I have 4 different smoke blends. They all serve different purposes. They can all be used as like offerings for your ancestors, but I also built them with the intention, like they're prayed over. So whatever thing you get, like it's prayed for that specific thing. But I also formulated to help people get weaned off of nicotine. And when I was doing like the promotion, I remember I was just cooking, because at the time I was vegan, because I was also vegan at a point. And I was cooking some vegan lo mein, and I was just like, something was like, go film a smoke blend video. And I'm a servant to spirit, essentially. I'm not a slave, but a servant. I love to serve. And so I'm like, okay, I don't feel like I'm put together, but F it, like I'm okay. Like I don't need to be super, I don't have to have my lashes done. I don't have to do my hair. I don't have to do all these things. I just need to show up. And I feel like that's the biggest piece of motivation that I have for anyone listening for us. If you just show up, you are no longer rejecting yourself of that opportunity. When you don't show up, your ops are winning. Yeah. And me, I'm competitive, so I don't compete with other people, but it's like, sorry, the ops will not win.
Yes. I understand exactly what you mean. Also, that is so true. If you don't show up, you're not giving yourself that opportunity to do whatever it is you want to do. You're not giving yourself that opportunity. Also, like, I need to take some lessons from that too, because I also feel like if I'm not put together, I don't want to do it. And it's just like, I understand there is some sense of, if you are put together, you're probably going to feel more confident, and then you'll feel like doing whatever it is that you're doing. But ultimately, if you're not doing it at all because you're not put together, it's like you're losing that opportunity, and that's not right. And everyone needs to just go for their opportunities instead of finding whatever excuse or whatever reason that they can't.
That's real. And also that's a perfect segue into like my second business called The Ultimate Muse. So The Ultimate Muse is a creative production company that I created where I've basically, just like Soulfully Organic, it's my way of doing what I want while still being right with Uncle Sam. Mm-hmm. So it's a creative production company where basically I just utilize my versatility and my expertise in like a broad range of fields. So I'm also like, I'm a marketer, I do content, I'm a copywriter, I've done product design since I was in high school, marketing design or project management, cross-function collaboration, like Adobe Photoshop, Creative Cloud, Canva, like all these things. I've been doing this since high school. And I decided, okay, Kim, you want to do all these things, but you also need to be able to write things off on your taxes. Mm-hmm. You also need to be able to keep track of the income that you're doing because you can't survive just doing sole charity work. And with the Ultimate Muse, essentially, like I metamorphosize into whatever role that's needed for me to fortify foundations. Mm-hmm. And so with the Ultimate Muse, essentially, like, the name explains itself, like I'm the Ultimate Muse. And I use this analogy, like, depending on the ecosystem I am, showcases, like, what form I'm taking. If I'm in an environment and I notice that, like, maybe things are tense, hey, let me just be some coral right now. I'll be some coral. Hey, you guys, hey, like, we have this craziness going on. We don't know what's going on. Like, we need someone to help manage. Okay, well, I'll be water. I'll take whatever form is needed and just continue to increase this cycle. And all of it is rooted in my love for like properly representing those involved and facilitating authentic narratives and telling authentic stories. Because I feel like the biggest disconnect when it comes to things like marketing or even creativity and stuff like that is one, like lack of authentic voices being amplified, and also the lack of feeling like you're good enough. Mm-hmm. And through the Ultimate Muse, I'm launching a podcast. The first episode airs tomorrow. And, it's called Kim's Corner, Humanizing the Creative Experience, where basically
everyone go subscribe.
Period. Do it. Or bad luck. But basically, so for Kim's Corner, Humanizing the Creative Experience, I basically just sit and I just talk to a bunch of creatives and also have some solo episodes where we just talk about their creative journey. And my goal is to dismantle creative dysmorphia. And creative dysmorphia is essentially just like body dysmorphia, being super like focused on yourself, pointing out every single flaw, whether it's like manifested or not, or things that are in your head. Me personally, I did not grow up with a safe space to flourish creatively, but I tried my best. So I've done every single performing arts, from stage building to sewing to theater, thespian, you know what I mean? And I noticed that creating was such a big escape for me, but I was also not the type to apply for solos.
Yeah.
I wasn't the type to apply for things that I knew that I was good at, that when I'm home and I'm by myself, I can do this perfectly. I can sing this perfectly. I can play this thing perfectly. But then when I'm around other people, it's like that moment of vulnerability and that fear of being judged, that fear of being unsafe just sparks again. And then it starts to create like a chain cycle of I'm not good enough. So I'm going to go escape through like being inspired. Okay, I'm on social media, I'm inspired. But all you're seeing are finalized products. All you're seeing is like the actual photo shoots behind it. And so one of my goals personally that I utilize my personal page, like Kimasia, to showcase like my authentic experiences and like the actuality of, hey, like this is actually what goes on behind the scenes. You guys might see like this, oh, here's this take of my peanut Butterfinger voice acting demo, but you're not seeing me crunch on the very last bit of Butterfinger. Oh, I said peanut butter? I meant to say Butterfinger. But crunch on that last bit of Butterfinger because I literally only had one bite left and I had to get this take right, even though I've done like 15 takes already. And I want to showcase this is a journey. It's not like a marathon. It's not a race. And I feel like it starts to get to the point where everyone starts to be competing with themselves, but then they see everyone else's progress because everyone's only posting the finalized things. So when they compare themselves, they're like, oh, I'm behind. And so that sense of like urgency starts to rush up, and you can't show up properly when you're rushing yourself. It's when you're late. If you wake up and you're already late to class, I doubt that you are brushing your teeth as thoroughly as you need to, if you are. And that's just me being realistic. If you've been late to class before, and I feel like it's just one of those things where with the Ultimate Muse, I want to be able to showcase my creativity and show the world how versatile I am and how, hey, you need a digital marketing producer? Hey, okay, here, like I'm here. I have that experience. Oh, you need an audio engineer? Hey, I'm here. Hey, you need someone to do a screenplay, or you need someone to do a storyboard. Okay, yeah, I'm here. But I also want to showcase like the authentic nature behind it, because my ultimate goal with the Ultimate Muse is I don't want to be idolized. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be like, oh, I can't go to Walmart. No, I don't even go to Walmart like that. But I don't want to go to like go get food and now I have people bombarding me and like my peace is disrupted. My goal is to create a chain reaction of inspiration where those who are inspired can inspire other people. And then we all just have a much safer environment, because if you don't have creative safety, creating is a very vulnerable thing. When we look at things like rap music and everyone's like, oh, it's so vulgar, oh, it's so this, but this is displaying the realities of those environments. When we look at things like jazz music or even country music or pop music or anything like that, those music is simply just the translation of energies. And everyone says how music is so powerful and how, oh, like you can transmit auras and energies and through music. I feel like, why can't we do that with other means of art? When people see pieces of art and they're like, wow, I'm so moved. Or you see a billboard and you're like, wow, like that did make me look. Or wow, like this random stick of gum, I'm so intrigued. That was somebody's creative process that they're essentially putting on that platter to be judged.
Yeah.
And, excuse me. And I feel like we have such a judgmental society that is hyper condensed and hyper individualized that like we've lost the actual touch of the beauty within creating, because, you know, creating has gotten caught up with capitalism, but our capitalism isn't just capitalism, it's capitalism rooted in consumerism. And so, you know, when you have to capitalize off of your art, when you have to capitalize off of your talents, or you don't, even if you choose not to, like they're still being judged, they're still being put out there. That's a very vulnerable process. And I noticed that we live in a society that will consistently crap on creatives until they reach a certain brink of quote unquote success.
Very true. That's very true.
People who are things like art majors or something, they're always looked down like, oh, you're not going to get a job. But it's okay, but who just designed that wallpaper on that computer that you just opened up?
Yep.
Who just, that jingle that's stuck in your head, someone had to write that. I feel like when it comes to creating, creatives are so exploited. And within my goals as the Ultimate Muse is debunking. People are being exploited, but a lot of people don't even know they're being exploited. And this is just a tip. If people say that you're getting paid in exposure, that was a given. You have to legally get credits for what you're doing. And you don't have to be paid. Like I've done free collaborations where we're both not paying each other, but we're both helping each other with something. And if, for example, if I'm asking someone to collaborate, I'll make it clear, hey, right now I'm going through a very tough financial time, but you probably are as well. If I can't pay you properly for your service, what can I do to make sure that is an even service exchange? Do you want some smoke blends? Do you want a reading? Do you want me to wait until I can save up some money before inquiring about your services? But communication is one of the biggest things within that. And I felt in order for me to properly break down walls and break down boundaries, like I really have to show up. And so that's been a really big experience for me, is like honestly just showing up in like whatever capacity that I can. Because like even now I'm saying, oh, podcast episode comes out tomorrow. It's not recorded. And after this and after my class, I'm going to go and record it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't set up my room. I didn't do this. But it's like, Kim, you have to find a way. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time. And I feel like, once again, like with creative dysmorphia, it really starts to penalize our mentality to where it's that creating and that creation and the realm of creativity, that's your inner child. That's your imagination. And if you've been traumatized and you've been told over and over again that you're not safe, or told by the world that you're a bad individual or you're a bad creative or you're not good enough, those things are going to leak into every single realm of your life. And it just turns into a cycle of like essentially boxing yourself in and beating yourself up, to where like maybe when you do sing in the shower, the moment you find out someone hears, now you're scared. Now you don't feel safe. And it's like, my goal with my podcast, it's a non-institutionalized form of qualitative research. Because if you submit research through a university, that's the university's research. And personally, like, that just doesn't really rub well with me. Like I like being credited, but at the same time, it's I'm like, babe, I'm doing all the work. You can't even give me no monies. But yeah, basically with the podcast, Kim's Corner, my biggest thing is debunking creative dysmorphia and reaching as like big as an audience as I can to like talk to people from like different generations who mostly inspire Gen Alpha, because Gen Alpha right now, all you hear is that they're doomed, they're iPad kids, they're this, they're whatever, they're dummies. But I feel like that is more of a representation of our society and how children are second-class citizens with no rights.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I do, whether it's Soulfully Organic and or like the Ultimate Muse, or just me, because I also use like Kimasia as my platform for me to just talk my sociology, for me to just talk about like Hoodoo to an extent, because like when I did blow up on social media, I had an influx of scammers, and they actually reached out to someone who had groomed me as a child online.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I remember he cussed me out and everything. It was really bad and it was really triggering for me. And that was the moment I knew, hey, you got to take a step back from social media, because they're making fake accounts of your personal page, babe. And also that was just poor business boundaries on me. And so I ended up closing Soulfully Organic for almost a whole year and a half. And as I closed Soulfully Organic, because the Ultimate Muse wasn't legally a thing until January 31st of this year. And my biggest thing with me closing Soulfully Organic, because it was such a tough choice, but I had literally just gotten, basically, scammed is not the word, because I guess legally I can't say that, or say allegedly, but I had a shop at Railroad Square and I was given an inhabitable space. That every time it rained, my stuff got damaged. There were holes in the walls. There were ceiling pieces of metal falling out of the ceiling. And I lost like all of the income my business was bringing in, 3,000 something. I lost that.
Wow.
And in the midst of me losing that, I applied for the Tech Fellows program, and like I got in. They gave me a stipend, and that paid like for the rent that like I was stressing about and like whatever. And at that point, because we had to do a qualitative research on something, and my decision was, I decided to study how does post-traumatic slave syndrome affect Black-owned businesses, small Black-owned businesses to be exact. And I realized I can't function as a small Black-owned business if I'm trying to understand how does post-traumatic slave syndrome affect small Black-owned businesses. And it just turned into a cycle of me discovering things about my community, of me discovering things from just different areas of Tallahassee as a whole, and interviewing different businesses, because I broke them down into segments. I had an accountant, I had somebody who had a physical retail store, I had some creative businesses, I had some spiritual businesses, I had people who were I just tried to diversify it as much as possible, but everyone said the same thing. And all of it aligned with the research that I had done, all the articles and papers that I read, the books that I read, the published works that I read. And it was one of those moments where I had to look at myself and be like, Kim, you have poor business boundaries, and you weren't even aware of this until you actually started looking into it yourself. Yeah. And as I navigate as the owner of both Soulfully Organic and the Ultimate Muse, my biggest thing is bringing awareness and creating things like terminology. Me alone, I've created 4 or 5, maybe even 6 new terms in sociology.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really impressive.
And one of my biggest things about it was like learning how we all interact and navigate the obstacles and the weights of our society, whether they're social constructs, whether it's socioeconomic or socioeconomic, which is like a term that I created because I feel like socioeconomic, you still got the nomic and the eka from economics, but I feel like when we talk about economics, education is constantly pushed to the side. And I was also a substitute teacher for Leon County Public Schools, but I stopped because honestly, the $15 was taking too much time out of school and it wasn't funding my actual like livelihood to the point that I needed. But it really showed me how big our disparities are when it comes to education. I went to a D school in high school, and not too far. It is far because like everywhere in Orlando is far. But when you go up the street, like when I say street, I mean like a long street, like the highway, low key. There's schools that have like whole ASL classes. Meanwhile, like I'm here like vouching, trying to form an ASL club. Yeah. And it's just little things like that. Like when I was playing tennis, like we didn't have a bus to take us anywhere. So it's like we had to carpool with other students. Yeah. And it's just one of those things where it's, wow, like your tennis team has less people, but you're still getting more funds. And they're saying, oh, it's because like we get paid more. But in actuality, it's okay, yeah, like AP classes come into things like that. Funding, like demographic, there's a lot of things that aren't spoken about. But when we talk about economics, our educational system is a direct reflection of that. And I felt like when I coined socioeconomic, I really needed like everyone to understand like we, just like with everything, and I also brought this up as a case with FSU about the English department and also like my perception of text. A lot of people just push things over to the side instead of actually like, including it. And a lot of people tend to forget that everything is so interwoven. So when they think of education, they think of education as something that's on the side. But education is impacted by economics, it's impacted by social standing, it's impacted by legalities, it's impacted by the demographics that are in it because people culturally learn differently. It's so interwoven. And so I came up with something called the spiderweb theory, where it literally, just like a spiderweb, every single thing is interwoven and interconnected. And you might not be able to see it, but in that very slim chance that you're able to just be in the right light, you can see the entire spiderweb illuminated.
Yes.
But when you don't see it, a lot of times, like, people tend to forget that, like, you touch one aspect of a web, the entire web is bouncing.
I feel like that also goes into the theory of like intersectionality.
Yeah.
Like you touch one thing and then all of it just changes. Even if you might not notice it, even if you don't notice that's why things are different. If you touch one aspect of it, that means that everything is going to be affected some way or another.
Yeah. And a really big thing for me, like when I was moving throughout my businesses, was making sure that I kept my focus in terms of things like intersectionality, in terms of things like diversity, equity, inclusion. And a lot of people don't like to use that word now because it's, oh my God. Like, But I'm like, at the end of the day, why? Why is there a problem with it? And personally, I noticed that a lot of politicians are using DIE as just a politically correct term to say, insert racial slur here, simply that. And I noticed that at first there wasn't this much discourse until it actually started becoming more publicized and more people started getting aware. And then that's when the division really started. But that's why I'm so heavily rooted in what I do and like the foundations and like creative integrity when it comes to maneuvering through my businesses and maneuvering through like my different identities and intersectionalities and just like everything, also being like as socially aware as I can, because that's like a lot of times like those things aren't fundamentally rooted within the foundation. And so we see like things like magazines like falling apart or companies falling apart because of lack of inclusivity or lack of cultural awareness or cultural competency. A lot of times is because that was just another afterthought. It's always, okay, we'll get these foundations. Okay, we're rooted in safe spaces. We're rooted in this. We're rooted in that. Oh, we're going to market this diversity. We're going to da-da-da-da. Okay, yeah, we're so diverse. We're so diverse. But what are you doing tangibly to support the people that you're marketing and the people that you're marketing to by utilizing people's identities as props or people's identities as statements?
Yeah.
And that's why some of my biggest things were like, even when it comes to the Ultimate Muse, through the Ultimate Muse, through my creative works and stuff like that, I also offer consulting when it comes to, hey, how do you create a more diverse or more equitable workplace? And if people don't like to say diversity, equity, inclusion, or DEI, okay, how would you like okay, let's get some training on how you can properly represent the authentic narratives that you're trying to portray.
Yes.
With me, I noticed that a lot of it is just semantics. And like, I really love utilizing communication as a tool to get messages across, because I feel if we all honestly just shut up and we all listened and spoke not to respond, but to hear and to like gain empathy, then I feel like it would be a lot less discourse. And discourse is not necessarily a bad thing. That's how you like, there's going to be tension in everything, but it's just a matter of actually communicating and actually like facilitating the space. But I noticed that like empathy is just not an American culture. It's not an American thing. You know, we're very individualistic.
Yes.
And a lot of it turns into things like crabs in a barrel. A lot of it turns into like politicians, like politically scapegoating communities. A lot of it turns into like mass media showcasing, being very selective when it comes to like what's being showcased, or like implicit bias or explicit bias showing. And some of my biggest like foundations are things like knowledge, are things like altruism, are things like affluence. Like I feel like if all of us eat, nobody has to go hungry. We don't have to eat the same amount because people have different appetites. People have different needs. People have different desires. People have different goals. But my biggest thing is utilizing and understanding a team and seeing what are your passions, what are your talents, what do you like to do? If I'm on a team, I'm not going to come up to somebody who's been doing this for 15 years just because I'm quote unquote like a higher position and be like, no, do it this way. No, give me your feedback. You are a person. I value you. I want to hear your input because there's things that you know about this that I don't. There's a reason why you've been here for that long. Even if you weren't with this company for that long, or even if you're an independent contractor, there's a reason why you've pursued what you've done for so long and you gained knowledge throughout all of this. And my biggest thing is empowering individuals so that they can show up. And through that empowerment and them showing up, we all collectively actually contribute as a group.
Yes.
I noticed that a lot of people don't like group work because a lot of people don't pull their weight.
Yeah.
But was this assignment a requirement, or did the people actually want to do it? Are people feeling valued? If I'm on a team and one person wants to just do all the graphic design and everyone's okay with that, I'm fine with that. If somebody just wants to do all the knowledge themselves, hey, I'll present. Nobody wants to present. I'll be the sole presenter. Okay, you're the sole graphics. You'll do the copy pasting. Oh, this person wants to rephrase everything so it's not plagiarism and we actually contribute to it. But it's really about finding everyone's strengths. And I noticed that everybody is so on survival mode to the point where we don't have time to think about that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like me coming into an ecosystem and basically helping incubate these ideas and incubate these philosophies and just really just help. I feel like the Ultimate Muse is my legal way of me utilizing what I can, also doing my low-key tax write-offs and stuff like that when it comes to like me creating, because like, you don't need a lot of stuff to create. All you need is yourself. The ideas will come. Like everything that you have now is what you need right now. So it's not, I'll start that podcast when I get this top up the thing mic. No, because I've been there and then I got a mic and I ain't even use it.
Yeah. And you don't even need, you can just start.
Exactly. It's just a matter of actually just getting started. Yeah. And I noticed that we're in a world where we're so on survival mode. There's so many things going on. Everybody has things going on. That's why I try to be very understanding when it comes to people having a bad day. This person talked to me sideways. I'm not going to check them. I might check on them. Yeah. Or I might just leave. But I'm very good when it comes to diffusing situations because you don't understand what that person's going through. Yeah. And I noticed that we're all everyone feels so individual to the point where everyone feels like things are automatically done to go against them. Even if it's someone cutting you off in traffic. That person's dog might be dying. Yeah. That person might really have to take a crap.
That's
true. You know what I mean?
You never know.
Exactly. But it's, you ran that light. And don't get me wrong, that was a dangerous thing to do. That was a dumb thing to do. But it's we all don't know what anyone else is going through. Yes. And I feel like one of my biggest things is trying my best to create that chain reaction of facilitating a healthy work environment, a healthy project environment, and also being an independent contractor for different things, and also building my own enterprise right now, where Kimasia, she's the academic, she's the lover of linguistics, she's the communicator, she's the all these things. But then now you have that Hoodoo worker. Now that's when you start getting Mama Kim. That's when you start getting all these other aspects of me through Soulfully Organic. And then the Ultimate Muse, that's where you get anything relatively creative is going through Soulfully Organic. And I've tried my best, and I feel like I'm doing a very good job at having my businesses create essentially their own ecosystem and their own enterprise. I recently just wrote a jingle for some of my products that are coming out once I protect my intellectual property, because that's also a very important thing, is always protect your intellectual property. But once that's out, Soulfully Organic independently contracted that jingle from the Ultimate Muse. And so now I have two businesses moving that are creating a symbiotic relationship with each other and ultimately just building a bigger enterprise and building a bigger chain connection. Because, my goal is not sales. If I wanted sales, that would not be a problem. Sales nowadays, you just have to show up, for real. Yeah. But for me, it's always the chain reaction. Yeah. I want to make a song that gets stuck in your head. I want to make something so undeniably infectious to where you listen to it and all you can do is just bop your head or something like that. Or someone smoking a smoke blend and it's, oh my gosh, I actually don't feel like I need to hit my vape. Because granted, smoking isn't that good for you, period. But I promise you, whatever's in that vape shipped from China is way more taxing than the mullein and 14 other herbs that are in the smoke blend.
For sure. And so many people nowadays are addicted to vaping and nicotine especially. So that's definitely a much, much better alternative.
Yeah. And I also saw how the weight of nicotine addiction has on the community, especially us, because I'm not going to lie, we were the generation that almost quit smoking. And then the USBs came and was technology.
It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. Because we really did, our generation almost quit smoking. And then
Yeah.
babes popped out, and
Yeah.
that'll do it. We are unfortunately running out of time.
Oh yeah, that's such
but I really enjoyed hearing about all of your journey. I feel really like 100% I agree with the statement that you want to inspire others with your creativity to inspire others with their creativity, and then just have that chain reaction. I feel like that's also what I'm trying to do as I'm trying to start up my makeup business right now, but that's exactly what I want. That's what I want to have the message be. That's what I want every creative to think about, because it, like you said, sales, like it's, if you market it a certain way, you can get sales, but like, how are you going to change the world really, or even a small aspect of it? Like, even if you're changing a few people's mindsets, like that's already something. Like I want to inspire people, and I find it very respectable that you also want that, and that's just like your number one goal. So I feel like that's something that a lot of people need to hear. But lastly, I just want to ask you, what would you say to like incoming students, or really anyone that's trying to start up something, that's trying to start up a business or whatever their creative entity might be? What kind of advice or encouraging words would you have for them?
Gotcha. So what I would say is, honestly, just do it. Not to even be on some Nike-ish right now, but for me, just do it. My variation is just show up. Nothing beats a no but a try. And even like when you think that you failed, we're always on God's timing. Even if you don't believe in God, God for you can be like your ancestors or astrology or your sheer determination to not rot in bed. We're all fueled by something related to faith. And if you don't have any faith right now, if your faith is just simply taking it day by day, that is your faith. Yeah. If your faith is your dream of changing lives, that is your faith. You need to know your why. And even when things seem like a very successful business idea from the jump, if your heart isn't in it, it's not going to go how you want. For example, like, drop shipping. Drop shipping is such a big thing right now, and it's slowly dying off. But like when drop shipping first came, that was such a quick way to make money, quick way to make money, quick way to make money. It's where everyone hopped on it. And I don't believe in oversaturation. Yeah. I don't believe in that. That's how we get monopolies. Lack of saturation caused monopolies. But with everyone doing it and everyone having the same intention, what differentiates you? Yeah. Your product might be super cool, but it's like, babe, Temu can get that for 97% cheaper. Yeah. Granted, it might be allegedly made with very carcinogenic materials that have high lead rates and all this other stuff.
We're still gonna buy it.
Exactly. And I feel like when it comes to people who have dreams, is you have that dream for a reason. You have this vision for a reason, and the longer you put it off, the deeper you will feel unsatisfied with yourself. Mm-hmm. The longer you put it off, the more bad you're going to feel about yourself, and the more you let creative dysmorphia win, the more you let your ops win. Your family and even your bestest friends, they might not support you to the degree that you think that they would. Mm-hmm. And starting this journey, it's a journey for a reason. This is not a one and done. Even if your first product, as soon as you put it out, you get big, you get whatever. Oh my gosh, I'm literally like a mogul now. What now? You can't just have this idea of success like just drive you, because that's how we get billionaires. Personally, I don't think we should have billionaires, because people love saying, oh, but they did that themselves. No, they did that through other people. Yes. They did that through other people's labor. Amazon makes around $1.2 billion a day. Federal minimum wage is $7.25. Yeah. And I feel like nobody does anything by themselves. And people are like, oh, but they shouldn't have to owe that. At least they did something. With this much influence, when we live in a government that says, hey, Taylor Swift, we need your Swifties to vote for Biden, we have to hold celebrities accountable. And this is not me calling out Taylor Swift specifically. That's just an example, because our government, our president did do that. But we have to hold people of influential status accountable. What are you doing? You're taking from us, and you want us to consume you. But what are you doing to make this a symbiotic relationship? And so that would be my biggest thing, is like, showing up for yourself and also showing up to contribute. You can't just come and ask for money, bro, because everyone needs that. If it were that easy, everybody would be just getting money, no problem. But this is a time where times clearly are getting hard in the United States. Tensions are coming up. They say empires last only 250 years. I think the United States is like 246 or something like that. We're getting mighty freaking close. Yeah. And I feel like we all feel these tensions coming up. If nobody believes in you, I believe in you. Everybody listening, even if nobody's listening, I just hearing this, I believe in you and you are capable. And there will be moments where your friends might not buy stuff, but they might not even like your stuff.
Yeah.
They might not even post you on their story. They might not comment. But I feel like that's a very important thing. It's like when you start a business, essentially you're starting a baby.
Yeah.
You have to allow your child to grow. We're not deer. We're not horses. We can't just pop out and be like, ooh, I'm finna stand up. No, babies are born not even being able to hold their head up.
Yeah.
And so as your ideas are formulating and your ideas are growing, give yourself grace and rely, not even rely, but have faith in your faith. Have faith in you. If you feel like you're losing faith, my biggest thing is just make a vision board.
Yeah.
Make a vision board so you can see it and keep this faith going so that you feel energized. There's going to be days where you don't want to get up. There's going to be days where, just like if you were to have a child, you literally, I kind of hate this baby. Not going to lie. I love this baby, but right now I hate you. And that is just the journey, because as you grow, your entities grow. And as your entities grow and you develop, they just start to grow, and it becomes a relationship. It's no longer an ownership. It's a relationship where you can see how your business is treating you outside of people consuming you.
Yes.
And just show up.
Yes.
Mic drop.
I like the show up for yourself and then show up to contribute as well.
Yeah.
And I also like that you compared your business to a baby, because you're right. Or like any business, when you have a baby, it can't do anything.
Literally.
So you have to do everything for them. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed our talk here, and I hope you have as well. Everyone, make sure to subscribe and like this podcast. And once again, this is the InNOLEvation Mindset podcast. Thank you guys so much. And thank you, Kimasia.
Please be sure to follow me on all social medias. I am Kimasia with 2 A's at the end. That is Kim and Asia put together, Kimasa. For my business entities, you can find me on Instagram at Soulfully Organic, TikTok at Soulfully Organic, Twitter Soulfully Organic without the A, because only 15 character limits. And on other forms of social media, for my other business, The Ultimate Muse, you can find me at The Ultimate Muse. And if you would like to contact me, my email is Kimasia, Kimasa, @gmail.com.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again. And thanks everyone for watching.
Bye.